The White House still says it expects a meeting between President Trump and Kim Jong Un to take place, although it may not take place as originally planned on June 12th. Secretary of State Mike Pompeo will meet with the top North Korean official in New York tomorrow, trying to revive planning for the peace summit directly with the Kim regime. Joining us tonight, North Korea and China expert Gordon Chang. Gordon, good to have. What does it mean when Kim Jong Un sends his top spy master and often at least perceived right-hand man to the United States to make things happen?
I think it's a sign of seriousness. They wouldn't send Kim Jong-chol here unless they wanted to make a deal. Now, of course, Kim Jong-chol is taking instructions that are unacceptable to us, but at least they're sending a high enough level official, because this guy's been around for decades. And although nobody has the trust of Kim Jong-un, nonetheless, if anyone were to be able to negotiate, it would be him.
Kim Jong-chol has also had sanctions placed against him personally. He is the nefarious head of the North Korean Secret Service, along with other infamous, if you will, credits to his name. It's a strange choice, it seems to me, but perhaps an apt one for what has been one of the bloodiest regimes on the planet.
Well, Kim Jong-chol has been involved in a number of incidences, including the Sony hack in November 2014. He had some indirect involvement in the sinking of the Cheonan, the South Korean frigate, in March 2010, 46 killed. So there's a lot of blood on this guy's hands, as you'd expect, because he's a North Korean official. He's a senior one, been involved in everything close to the top of the regime. So clearly he's going to be a bad actor.
A bad actor, but apparently with a central role in these negotiations. Just how soon do you think we'll see this have some sort of impact to reveal what the Chinese view is? That is, Xi Jinping is the master behind all of this for the North Koreans. What is your sense of where the Chinese are right now?
Right now, the Chinese are violating UN sanctions openly. Just about 10, 11 hours ago, we learned from Japanese media that the Japanese spotted a Chinese-flagged vessel in international waters transferring something to a North Korean ship. Now, ship-to-ship transfers, international waters, are sanctioned by the UN. Clearly, China's up to no good there. They're supporting the North Korean economy so that Kim doesn't have to deal with us. And President Trump, at some point, is going to have to deal with the Chinese, especially if we don't get a good arrangement with North Korea, because if we don't get a good one, it's because of Beijing.
I was listening to Peter Navarro, the president's trade council director. He basically didn't want to talk about trade, even though he's there, and he wanted to dismiss 301s as a law enforcement issue rather than a national security. I could understand a lot of this if he were saying that it's national security, but he was talking about law enforcement, when in fact national security underpins everything that we're doing with the Chinese, with the North Koreans, obviously, even our allies in Europe. National security is the fundamental motivation here for the United States in all trade.
No, that's absolutely critical, Lou. Every discussion we have with the Chinese these days becomes a national security one, especially trade, because the Chinese are using trade to undermine U.S. national security. The Chinese don't separate it out, say we have trade relations with the U.S., we have law enforcement, or we have military relations. No, it's all part of the same conversation for Beijing. We should treat it as the same way.
And we did for years. The Clinton administration is actually when there was first a decoupling. A significant decoupling, as it turned out. Satellite technology transferred. This is long before the World Trade Organization entry on the part of the Chinese. We were watching $500 billion, $600 billion a year being stolen by the Chinese in one form or another, but in terms of outright espionage and theft in this country.
Yes, and we have to impose costs on that. I mean, this has been something that we've known about for administration in and administration out. And the Trump administration is trying to do something about it. I think they should be doing more, but nonetheless, we're getting started.
Yeah, it is a start, but it's troubling when you hear a representative of this administration frankly, it was troubling to watch the mess Mnuchin, the Treasury Secretary, made of the negotiations in Beijing. It's troubling when you hear Peter Navarro start talking about law enforcement as a way to dodge the issues, the fundamental issues about the nascent rebalancing that this administration, to its immense credit, has begun.
Yeah, and Treasury Secretary Mnuchin doesn't understand what you just mentioned about how everything is a national security issue. ZTE is not important to him. 301 tariffs, no big deal. I mean, this is just a wrong-headed view of the U.S. relations with Beijing.
Well, fortunately, and to the credit of the administration, a guided missile destroyer and cruiser in the South China Seas, making certain that there is freedom of navigation as they carried out their maneuvers over the past week there, much to the consternation and of the Chinese, who had a bit of a fit over it all. It's great to see you, Gordon. Thanks for being with us.
Thanks, Lou.